Hi, my name is Ed Pierce. I'm a product marketing manager with Fujifilm Graphic Systems, and I'm very glad to be able to spend this time with you today at the Inkjet Summit. And I will be presenting a case study in the general commercial segment. And today, the case study presentation will center around a customer in the Chicago, Illinois area, M&G Graphics. M&G is a customer of Fujifilm that was gracious enough to spend some time with me to be able to put together this case study and the presentation. Before we get into the real heart of it all, I think it's always good to give a little baseline background on the organization so we know who they are and kind of where they came from and then how they got to where they are today with their investments. M&G was founded in 1984 by Bob Meyer Sr. And Bob was a pressman by experience and his background. And Bob was able to get into ownership of M&G and establish it. And he did so by purchasing used offset equipment, primarily 40-inch offset equipment, and then complementing and rounding out his entire operation with a full bindery system. And actually, this background image that I'm using in this presentation is the plant at M&G. M&G had a very targeted and niche business strategy really from the outset, and this was from Bob's background, where they were targeting print brokers that Bob knew from his experience in the industry. Very niche, and because of the equipment that M&G purchased and implemented, they were able to go after even a more refined niche in producing very high quality printed output, and their product was always known in the industry being able to hit the highest and the highest of quality. During the 1990s, however, M&G experienced some changes in the industry that started to have kind of quite a negative effect on the organization, and there were a lot of competitors that began entering the market that had a lower cost structure. And when your primary audience is a print broker, and their desire is to find the lowest cost print in the marketplace, that's not a good combination. And M&G found themselves beginning to lose a lot of their bids in their core business strategy area. As a countermeasure, M&G added toner equipment with two goals. And one was obviously to lower the cost and lower their cost structure on a per piece basis, but also to improve delivery time, because that was another dynamic that the market started to shift and have expectations that they were struggling to meet with their traditional offset equipment. The results of which all of this, though, however, didn't really deliver, and they found themselves that they had lost about 50% of their core business, 50% decline. That really obviously hit them hard and put them into some strategic planning and thought process where in 2019, they invested in production inkjet. So now that we've taken a look at a little bit of the background and we saw where the business was going and what happened, let's take a look at some of the main challenges that drove M&G to discover and the need to invest in production inkjet. The first one that we're going to take a look at that we've discussed is that cost structure to compete. When you're looking at that broker model, which was their core business, and the broker looks for the lowest cost provider, that legacy equipment that M&G invested in and had really necessitates a higher cost when you're looking at a shorter run, or those upfront costs are relatively high when you consider all the plates, the make-ready waste, and the labor. For a lot of these reasons, their cost structure was too high, driving those bids towards the low-cost providers, and they were losing. Another one of the dynamics in the marketplace is the shift to shorter runs. Offset produces very high quality. That was one of the key niches that M&G had and still has today, where offset produces that high quality, but it's very inefficient for short runs for the very same reasons they were looking at on the previous slide of plates, make-ready labor, and waste. And again, they found themselves in this area losing to those lower cost providers and losing those bids. And let's take a look very briefly at what I mean by that dynamic in the market that we've all seen, where on the left-hand side is the traditional market that we've seen where it's a volume-driven market. Long volumes, low cost per piece. But today, the market has shifted to a value-driven market space. So each printed piece needs to drive and bring more value to the print provider, but also the print buyer. But at the same time, the expectation of producing quality hasn't gone down exponentially with that run length. How do you produce that? How do you do that profitably? Another dynamic in the marketplace is faster and faster turnaround times. Instead of a week or 2 weeks or even several days, jobs are entered and it's going to be within 2 days or 24 hours. And when you take a look at the costs in time for an offset, that's going to drive up the cost per piece just because the setup can actually exceed the cost of production or the time of production or faster turnaround time arena. And M&G also found that they're unable to compete with those early digital platforms that were much more efficient than their older offset equipment, in addition to their digital devices and toner that was out there. And their toner platforms were showing to be unreliable. The uptime they were experiencing was quite low. And the cost started to go up on the toner devices because they found that they'd have to invest and have redundancy in their planning for one device or more to go down. Certainly didn't lend itself to meeting those deadlines, and they found themselves losing again. And then meeting that expectation of quality. So as the run length decreases, that expectation of quality doesn't go down also, especially in the niche target that M&G has been known for in the high quality area, where toner wasn't able to match that quality level. Their clientele base, their buyers were not accepting of the quality that they were able to produce, even though that cost per piece was a little bit lower and their turnaround time might have been improved. And they couldn't meet the broker price expectations on those shorter run lengths because they'd have to shift to their offset equipment to meet that quality. So what were some of the key investments considerations? We looked at the challenges that they've had in their business. Now they're going to take a look at, and M&G took a look at in their research on what type of a platform should they consider, what was very important to them in some of those key considerations. Well, obviously image quality, because of the niche marketplace that they have set themselves and placed themselves in the market. It needed to be offset quality or better. They definitely took a look at the shrinking pool of skilled labor. As the market shifts and that skilled labor pool decreases, they were looking for a platform that they would be able to cross-train members of their organization and have more than one operator being able to produce and run the particular press. The longevity of the technology was also very important in their consideration. They wanted to make sure that the technology that they were considering and investing in was going to be long-term in the marketplace and really where the market was headed. Ease of operation, again, kind of looking back at that shrinking pool of skilled labor, but again here, expanding the ability of other people within their plant and having some backup operators that needed to be a very relatively simple platform to operate. The reliability and the uptime, killer important. They were investing in building redundancy in their toner equipment. They needed something that was going to eliminate that problem and that concern in their plant. Something also that the management of M&G shared with me was that whatever they invested in needed to be capable of producing what they referred to as very difficult work, or as another J-Press Fujifilm customer has shared with me, they've called it the heartache printing, where you have a lot of high-end books with a lot of difficult crossovers, a lot of fine type, a bunch of neutral grays, the kind of work that even challenges the most skilled of the skilled pressmen. And it needed to be able to do that really without thought and automated in the way it handled it. The cost and use obviously had to be fit and drive down that cost per piece and meet the market dynamic of where it had shifted. And then the relationship with the manufacturer is also very, very important in partnering with a company that had the financial wherewithal to be around for the long term. The solution that M&G chose in this case was the Fujifilm J-Press 750S. And this is not, this is a case study presentation, but there are a few slides that I put in here on the J-Press so I can share with you why M&G did invest in the technology and what drove them here and some of the capabilities. Just a very, very high level on some of the specifications. The J-Press 750S is the fastest running in its class in the marketplace today at 3,600 sheets an hour. that is in the production inkjet arena. We do run an aqueous pigment ink that lends itself very deeply into how we're able to produce the max gamut that we are able to produce with the J-Press. We have a sheet size of 23 by 29.5, which allows for a 6-up in position of an 8.5 by 11 or letter size output. And the platform is extremely flexible, where our standard configuration from the factory is the commercial configuration running a 60-pound text up to 110-pound cover stock, or with the heavy substrate option, which is very field upgradable, and most of our customers actually will change it back and forth themselves, will run from an 8-point to a 24-point stock, lending itself very, very nicely for the very lucrative and growing space segment of short-run folding cartons. And then we run a standard coated and uncoated offset stocks. You don't need to change the way you buy media. Your print buyers don't need to change the way they buy media. And you don't need to spend the additional money or the premium for any kind of treated stocks. And then we've also just recently introduced a new line from Permalite of synthetic media, PVCs, polypropylenes, some alternative medias in the canvas area, adhesive back vinyls, and those types of things that run on the J-Press. The solution we have put to the test in the marketplace by putting it through some certifications with ID Alliance, industry certifications. We've achieved the digital press, inkjet press certification, as well as the master elite level, the very top level of the ISO 15339 certification and test system, test criteria, which is, again, their highest level. And there's only one other press, inkjet press, that has achieved both of these certifications, and that is our previous generation J-Press 720S. We're very proud of the results, our measurements versus tolerance. I'm gonna just highlight two of them for you here that are very important to the commercial market space, whether it be general commercial work or even moving into that short-run lucrative folding carton market space. And that is the ability to produce color, but also to hold color, the consistency and repeatability. And here I have two measurements, variation of one run that was 1,000 sheets, so sheet 1 to sheet 1,000, and then the repeatability of the same job printed one day, and then the next, and then readings taken, and we take a look at the color shift. And there's very tight tolerance targets of a delta E of 3 or less, and the J-Press measured consistently across the board at under a 1 delta E. So very proud, but a very important aspect and feature of the press to share with you. And then also registration, your CMYK crosshair registration, when you're considering embellishments and so forth after printing, with very tight tolerance, target given of 0.1 millimeter or less, and the J-Press measured at 0, which is perfect registration. So just a couple of key measurements that I wanted to share, but are very important to the audience that I'm speaking to. And then something that we've developed and been rolling out in order to offer a very full and broad solution for that growing folding carton market space. Fujifilm brings to market partners with Tilia Labs with their Phoenix product on the front end for imposition and nesting. We obviously have the highest level digital printing capability in the marketplace. We have coating fluids that have been designed specially for use with the J-Press, both aqueous and UV coatings. And then finishing, we've partnered with our best-in-class Harrison Bruno to offer that very end-to-end solution, the full end-to-end solution. So after M&G has now implemented the press, they're in production. It's very important to take a look back at now what were those key challenges versus the results that they've been experiencing. So the first one we took a look at was meeting the cost structural requirements, which the press has done not only in the way they were looking for it to do, but it exceeded their expectations. So things that have led to that is the larger format size versus the toner, the 1319 toner, and they're now a 2-up versus a 6-up, but the increased productivity and the elimination of all the cost of setup on the offset and moving work from offset to the J-Press that they purchased and implemented. And the productivity definitely includes the speed, but it's many more factors that are taken into consideration as well, such as features on the J-Press like the seamless printing. So gaining jobs and running them without pause in between. Automated inline quality management, where each sheet is scanned for quality, and if a nozzle, an inkjet nozzle, is found to be clogged in any way, shape, or form, it is automatically changed to another nozzle without operator intervention. Your job doesn't stop, your job doesn't slow down, and it's not compromised from quality from sheet one until the very end. And then managing color and automated head cleaning that your operator is not involved in, all adding to the efficiencies and productivity. But one of the other key areas that M&G was able to do was retire all of their toner devices. So they've saved the cost as well from operating their redundant toner devices, shifting all of that work to the J-Press as well. Meeting the dynamics for shorter runs. They've saved on all of those upfront costs. The first sheet off is sellable. It has certainly met the need for being able to address the shorter run environment. And then in alignment with that, the faster turnaround time. It's a digital press. You don't have the setup time, and we're able to produce work much more efficiently and consistently. And then meeting the need for offset quality. We do use the Fujifilm Dymatics Samba print heads, the benchmark in the industry, creating by far the uncontested best quality, which has also been able to provide M&G with a big competitive differentiator in the marketplace. So in addition to achieving the stated goals and answering those business needs, there's some gravy on top that M&G shared with me, some results that were not anticipated. One of those, first and foremost, was that they're experiencing considerable labor savings, and that's not coming from paying their pressmen less. It's coming from the fact that they don't have all the make-readies in the labor time running up to the job in the front end, which is saving them a ton of money on each and every short-run job. They're also experiencing improved margins. Not only is the cost structure of the J-Press right for running this work, but when you consider the ability of a digital press, and in this case, the example would be book blocks where they can collate up front, they're saving labor on the back end in bindery from doing that manually. So they shared they're even saving upwards of 40% when they're considering the capabilities. They're also regaining a lot of the lost business that they had previously been losing. And in addition to gaining that business back, their end users, the print buyers, are saying that the quality is superior to what they were running before, even on their offset equipment. So they're regaining and improving upon their high quality reputation. They're growing their business into adjacent segments. One example is in the direct mail space that they've never been before. Because of the J-Press, they bid on a piece of business. They were never able to do so before. They won that business, and they've been actually getting that repeat business. And that's because not only do they have the fastest turnaround times, but the quality level that they're delivering is the highest that the customer has experienced. And they're giving that business continually back to M&G. And then they're also looking to gain, because of the flexibility in the configuration of the J-Press, they're looking to move into the growing and high margin lucrative short run folding carton space. They're also have learned that they can proof on the J-Press. Their Epsons are getting kind of dusty, it was shared with me. And so what they're doing is that they can produce the proof on the J-Press for a total cost, consumables, but also media, for about 30 cents a proof. And they're selling it for a heck of a lot more than that, of course. And then finally, they've been able to attract a much higher caliber salesperson than they've been able to in the past. And because of that, they're attributing a lot of the new business that they're gaining to the new salespeople that they've been able to bring on. And those salespeople have come as a direct result of the competitive differentiation that the J-Press is able to give them when they go to market selling print. And the bottom line that Bob Meyer Jr., who's the vice president of the organization, shared with me is, as long as you have that work, he said, you are going to be profitable with the J-Press. So that concludes my presentation in the general commercial segment today. I've appreciated the time. I do invite you to learn some more information at the website listed here on this slide at fujifilminkjet.com/J-Press 750S, and then one more /. There you can get more information, download a brochure, and or request somebody to contact you. Thank you.